Jeremy, those jeans.
Very snug.
Ooh.
You steal stuff?
Do you?
Yeah, I try to, whatever, yeah.
I don't torture myself with my art.
That's nice.
Hi, Jeremy. Hi. Alan White.
Hello, Kate Hudson.
I'm excited to talk to you about this.
Yeah.
It's fun that we both have music films this year.
We do some singing.
With some pretty iconic names.
Yeah.
Pretty giant musicians.
Large.
And songwriters.
Yeah.
Now, for me, Neil Diamond was not someone when I was growing up that was like someone I went deep into his catalog until I did this movie, but Bruce Springsteen.
Similar for me. I mean,
really?
I was like really familiar with Bruce as kind of like everybody. It's just kind of like something that happens to you, like kind of like the radio songs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I had heard Nebraska, but I wasn't like,
you didn't.
Yeah, I didn't listen
Nebraska.
to Nebraska,
I did. I was like, Nebraska was like really personal for me.
Really?
Yeah, and I think for a lot of musicians.
Yeah. I have found talking to a lot of musicians, like when I began like the prep for the film and during filming, any musician I spoke to, Nebraska's like always in that kind of like top 5 for them.
What did that feel like for you to take on Bruce's most like iconic artist album?
A part of me felt like, just from a technical standpoint, like I was in luck because there were very few chords used on Nebraska.
Yeah.
But I felt really lucky also in the sense that, he's so honest in all of his music and there's so much specificity and detail in all of his writing. But I felt that sort of like the canvas of Nebraska was so rich, and he's singing so much about himself and his own experience on that album. And I found to make a film about the period in which Nebraska was written, I don't know, I had the map, and it was in the music.
We really wanna go walk in the sun, but to let tramps like us, baby, we were born to run.
How involved was Bruce Springsteen?
So, have you spent time with him?
Yes.
Do you know? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
He's
the best.
He's the greatest.
Yeah.
Him and Scott Cooper, the director, they had to speak before Scott got started, and Bruce had to give him like the go-ahead. But then he was pretty hands-off during the writing process. Actually, the first time I got together with him was in London at Wembley, and I got invited to sound check. And he like brought me up on stage prior to everybody coming in. And that was our first meet. And we spent, I don't know, like a couple weeks in prep together. But then he was on set all the time, which was not something that we knew going into it. That was like
You're literally sitting there singing Bruce songs, and he's sitting there
singing Nebraska as he's watching, and like
oh my gosh, the pressure.
Yeah, and I've gone back and forth about this a lot, where I don't know, I kind of like had made all of my choices prior to showing up, and then I felt like I had to just like hang on really tight once I got there. Like, I don't know, is it easy for you to kind of, sometimes I feel like I'm not super flexible when I'm there. Do you find that?
Like when you're on the day?
Yeah, once I'm filming, once I've made my kind of like choices, it's hard for me to drift away from them, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm probably the opposite, actually.
Okay.
I like do a ton of work in the beginning, and then I've learned that I have to let it all go and try to be as available and flexible as possible.
I should probably try to do that more.
Well, I don't know. You're doing pretty good, Jeremy.
Well,
I think you should stick with what you're doing here.
Thank you. But what happened, I think, was, I'd spent all this time with the Bruce prior, and I'd kind of attached myself to a few ideas, and I think I knew how I was going to do it. And then he was around so often, and you would think that I would be like, after every scene, be like, how was this? And, if I did this differently, or how was it in this moment? But I wasn't expecting him to be on set as often as he was.
So you're like, Bruce, get off this set.
I kind of was like head down the whole time. Yeah. And so he was super available and lovely the whole time, as he is in all ways. but I would kind of say hello to him in the morning, and then like go off and do my thing, and then I'd like give him a hug at the end of the day, and that was kind of
But I
it.
think this basically mirrors the part. So
Sure, there is some separation.
Okay, so there's your relationship to that part and what you did in this movie, which I thought was so wonderful. Because to me, like as a writer, as someone who has been writing songs my whole life, just now sharing them, but like this film made me so emotional because the process of writing can be torturous.
Yeah.
And you have to just go so, you have to internalize everything.
Yeah, listen to yourself.
And it could be really like awful.
Yeah.
And you sometimes just need to be alone. And you can have the same process as an actor, which is kind of a funny parallel.
No, for sure.
That you kind of had to like be more internal than more social with Bruce on a set, which is really interesting.
We got things we gotta catch up on.
I found your performance to be almost like you're so excellent in the movie and you're so charismatic in everything you do, but in Song Sung Blue, there is such joy. And even in some of the moments where it's like difficult to find that light, there's always like some optimism, within you. And I feel like it's like on the other end of the spectrum. Like I'm so like internal and my head is down, and you're like this beaming light while you were on set. And I know you a little bit, and I found that you carry yourself with a lot of that light in your life. On set, are you moving around with that kind of energy all
the time?
If it's necessary.
You're like, are you that
exhausting?
exhausting? I think that it just depends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think in life, I choose daily to like tackle it with energy and optimism.
Yeah.
And I do try to bring that to a set. I think maybe it has something to do with how I grew up. I really like being in the circus.
Yeah.
So I'm not an exclusive actor. I like being on set. I like sitting on
Exclusive actor. What do you
like I don't go into my hole. Like
okay.
even if I'm having it's a tough day or it's something I have to go, I go into like, you kind of zero in, right? You become kind of razor sharp in moments where you have to really go there or feel like you're channeling something.
Yeah.
I'm actually the kind of person that likes to stay on set when I'm in that mode.
Yeah.
So I like to let everybody move around and be there and be a part of the set. And so I'm not like a trailer actor. You know what I mean? Where I go back to my trailer
Sure,
or,
sure.
I like to be in it. So I am.
Regardless of what is like, what you're being
Regardless.
called upon that day. you know?
And I find that I get a lot of energy from the collaborative effort on a set. So when I see them setting up and I see the grips and I see the electrics and I see everybody working towards this one thing, I kind of like just sitting there and getting ready for what I need to be doing.
Right.
But to answer your question, like I don't know how other people would see what I bring. I know for me, I'm not I don't torture myself with my art.
That's nice.
I do in the writing process.
Yeah.
It can get hard, but I don't go to that.
Even on like in the film, so the accident has happened, you're in bed, your daughter's coming, and that's your energy there can still be outward and
I'm a very open person.
Yeah.
So there were days where like I would do a scene and just cry.
Yeah.
And I just sit there, I'm on the bed.
Yeah.
And I just cry and cry and cry.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, cool, like they got it,
Right.
I felt like I had the support of everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that it's kind of how I do life, really.
Sure.
Is that I am vulnerable and I approach things honestly and openly. And if I have to like get weird, I do it with everybody.
Right. Yeah. Everybody's with you. Yeah.
Yeah. So like when Hugh and I had the big argument scene.
Yeah.
And Hugh is very similar. He's so open and lovely. And we kind of just sat there for like 20 minutes and like had to like keep crying,
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds silly on the outside, but as an actor, it's kind of what you live for a little bit. And
Yeah.
kind of what you get a little addicted to is that sort of output of energy.
Yeah.
But I like bringing everybody into the experience,
Yeah.
which is maybe just my personality.
No, and I think I've tried to do that more on other jobs, but I think for Deliver Me From Nowhere in particular, I felt so kind of like on an island and
Oh,
sort of like
yeah.
on my own. But it would have been so nice to have had you around, I guess is what I'm saying. So like,
I feel like, Jeremy, I think it's one of the things that I've loved the most about working with so many different people is that everybody has their process.
yeah,
And like, it's okay.
yeah,
Like, I don't think anyone should judge any actor's process because that's the only way we can access what we need to access is by
Sure.
getting there however we need to get there.
totally.
You know?
Yeah,
And it's like you bring a lot of yourself to something. It's incredibly vulnerable what we
Yeah.
do in these moments. Your performance is very vulnerable and beautiful. And it's just personal,
yeah,
right? It's just a
Yeah.
personal. And then you might find in 10 years that you like show up to set and you don't even know your lines and you're like, fuck it.
yeah, sure.
In 10 years, you might have a completely different process,
Yeah.
you know?
Has your process changed a lot over time?
Oh yeah, it always changes.
For
I
every
think-
job, you think?
Well, I think like when I was younger, it was incredibly spontaneous.
Yeah.
You know, and I work well with spontaneity.
Yeah.
You know, I like people throwing shit at me,
Yeah,
but I also love comedy. So for me, my comedic side likes to like have fresh ideas all the time and not be too rehearsed.
sure.
As I started working with different actors and people I really learned from and admire.
Do you steal stuff?
Do you?
Yeah, try to, whatever. Yeah.
You know, stealing, I don't know, but I definitely like, I'll never forget looking at Naomi Watts' script.
Mm.
And I was like, I'm really underperforming on
I
my
know.
notes.
Whenever I see a script, I
My
saw
notes-
Jeremy Strong's script. once,
Ugh.
and I was like, God.
I was like, I gotta like get my highlighter out. I gotta figure out what my substitutions
Yeah,
are.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
who is
yeah.
this person to me?
I know. Yeah.
You know, you're like, I really gotta pick up my game here.
Yeah.
So when Naomi and I were doing Late Divorce, like
Yeah.
that started my kind of, you know, and she was working with someone all the time and
Yeah.
was very like committed to the craft. And I was like, let's work and then like, let's go to Bar Petey and get wine and smoke cigarettes and party
Yeah.
in Paris, right?
Yeah.
But she'd like, you know, she'd sit at home and know her lines and be really like, and I remember after that I was 21 and I was like, I think I need to like.
But would you have done it differently, or did you feel like that fed
I
you
think-
in the way that it needed to feed
Yeah,
you for that?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like I just learned something from Naomi, which
Right.
was, you know, it's okay to take risks in your choices too. Like she would commit in a way that sometimes you'd be like, whoa, what was that choice? And then you'd see it translated on film and you'd be like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a friend who worked with Cate Blanchett, similar. So yes, I like learn from people that I admire, but Cate Blanchett's the same thing. She makes these committed sort of decisions that can sometimes feel like, you know, whoa, and then you realize like, oh, sometimes you got to really fucking lean in.
Yeah.
And it's translated differently on screen.
Yeah.
The process
It's
for
always
changing.
Does music always play a part in a job for you, regardless of kind of like
Huge.
what the film is?
Huge.
Do you make playlists and
Playlists.
stuff? Yeah.
Playlists, certain songs evoke certain emotions for me
Yeah.
that really help when I'm pretty good at accessing emotion. I'm not gonna lie, I can
Sure.
cry all the time.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
crying is really easy for me.
Yeah.
But like when I can't get there's certain songs. Actually, My Father's House is
Yeah.
one of those songs.
Yeah.
From Nebraska.
That was my North Star. If I was ever feeling like lost or unstable, or I didn't know what a certain scene was about or where Bruce was at,
Yeah.
that was kind of my that was my North Star. That one always grounded me. And in the process of recording that song, that was the first time I felt really close to Bruce in the process.
That would make so much sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So like, so I'll listen to certain things and it will just make me emotional. And then playlists for, even sometimes I'll get an earwig. Because if there's like a scene that I'm doing that has energy, I'll be like, can you get an earwig? And I'll have sound just like blast something in
No
my
way.
ear. Yeah, it's
Oh,
fun.
so nice.
should
I'm
try
gonna try that one. Yeah.
It's a-
I'm gonna
like
steal
if it's
that.
if it's a scene where you're like have to be like in motion,
Yeah.
sometimes it's really fun to put
Oh, that's great.
like a song in your ear because you're like, oh, this is giving me a different kind of like fire.
Totally.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
since you weren't so knowledgeable about Nebraska, like when you sat down and listened to did you listen to the whole album?
Yeah,
Did you
many
listen
times.
to it on Spotify? Did you listen to it on vinyl ever?
I listened to it on vinyl once we were in like, pre-production. But the first time I listened to it, it was on Spotify. I was in Chicago, and Scott had told me, like turn out the lights, like
Yeah.
lie down and just let it go. And this was before I even read the script. Scott Cooper, the director, was like, we had a meeting and we'd spoken about the idea of working together, but he didn't mention Springsteen at all. And then he told me to give a listen to the record before he even sent me the script.
What was the first song? I mean, maybe it was My Father's House, but what was the first song that you were like, oh, this album?
I mean, Nebraska's the first song, and it's a wonderful song. I don't want to like sell any of the songs short. Highway Patrolman, like that storytelling was so great. My Father's House, I think emotionally, on first listen, I felt the most connected to. And the last track has stuck with me the longest, and that's, Reason to Believe.
Yeah.
I love singing that song the most, probably out of all the songs. And I see like a real like romance in that song.
Did it make you want to write music?
No.
Come on, be honest.
No,
not at all?
I mean, if anything, it made me like, I think I was just like, how does one, like, the writing on that record is so good. I think it was intimidating, more than like, oh yeah, I should give this a go. I think I was like, I remember writing his lyrics over and over and over again, just trying, not just for memorization, but just like for like a shared experience, even if it's like a lame one, just to like be sitting and feeling it a little bit. And then again, I think like the recording process was so, just to have a shared experience with the character and feel like we were in a similar position at one point was so helpful.
It's so funny how life works, because yesterday I was actually Cameron Crowe has this book out called The Uncool, and I went and did a Q&A with him for his book, and he was telling this story, randomly, not knowing we were talking about David Bowie.
Yeah.
And when he was interviewing David Bowie and during this time, and he kept talking about this artist, this young kid from Jersey who he thinks is going to be really great, but he really, he loves his lyrics.
Yeah.
And David Bowie's whole thing was he likes to write. Like, there's a lot of lyrics, so I don't know how this is going to go, but he's a really special guy. And he was telling the story on stage, and I was like, how cool is it that we get to be connected?
Yeah.
To all of these amazing people in music and then portray certain things on screen.
Yeah.
These are just legends, Yeah. So you're like, how amazing.
No,
what an
it's incredible.
honor for you to be able to have done that and then have the relationship with Bruce.
Yeah.
So this song got a name?
I was gonna call it Starkweather. But now I'm thinking Nebraska.
Did you spend time with Claire?
Claire,
Yeah.
Well, Craig was sort of precious about me not spending too much time with Claire because he wanted me to do my own thing.
Sure.
And didn't want me to kind of like, in the process, be like, oh, I gotta like do this more. He wanted me just to stick to like focusing on the character as he wrote it.
As written, yeah.
Which was the right call, because I think when it could have risked the chance of getting too mimicky,
Yeah.
especially with like the accent. And
Totally. Your accent is so good in the movie. It's so good.
Thanks. But really, like, I feel like it could have gone, if I spent too much time with Claire, I could have overthought it.
Has she seen the movie?
Yeah. It was
How was that?
great, amazing, and hard for her.
Yeah.
And I think during the time that I sort of go down, she kind of got up, was like, didn't know if she could like finish the movie because it was so intense for her.
It's devastating.
It's devastating.
It was one of those movies where you go on your phone, you're like, then surely this
didn't exist.
How this happened.
And it did.
Yeah.
Every single thing. Even the car twice.
That one was...
It was insane.
Yeah.
Him in the car, I don't want to give anything away, but the car,
also,
that was all true.
Was he on his way after?
Yes. It's insane.
Wow.
Their story is so wild.
Yeah.
That you couldn't write it. unless it was true.
Yeah.
But then at the core of it, it's like such a hopeful movie, which you sort of
Yeah.
look at all this tragedy and then you are somehow inspired by the grit of these.
Well, the grit and the power of like the escape and power and joy of music, which
Yeah.
is like the stories of these two films are like they're different, but also like it's about music saving people,
Yeah.
right? I mean, Hugh
Mike.
Jackman's character's Mike,
Mike.
yes. Even if he, passes, that kept him going always,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that was the
Yes.
thing. And for Claire as well, like without music,
No,
they
they'd be
wouldn't have
dead.
done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people feel that way about music. And when
Yeah.
it's captured, it's really hard to make a good music movie.
Yeah.
You know, I think that it takes a certain kind of director. I know Scott Cooper, your
Yeah.
director, well. Craig Brewer, our writer-director. Did Scott write the movie? Did Scott
He
Cooper
did.
write? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have people who are so connected to music.
Yeah.
They have music in them.
Yeah.
You know, and I always say there's two kinds of music people. There's
Mm.
the ones who need it and like it saves their life because they hear it and it like hits their soul
Yeah.
and it lifts them or it carries them.
Yeah.
And then there's those who are born with it in them and it needs to sort of come out.
Sure.
I think Scott Cooper and Craig Brewer and they're people who have music in them. And so they can really understand how to tackle, a film that really honors what it is to be not only a musician, but a writer.
Yeah.
In your film's case, in our film's case, the sort of tip jar musician who didn't get the opportunity to see stardom,
Yeah.
that like does it because they love it.
Yeah.
And they have to do it
Yeah.
because without it, what is their life?
It's so pure, their kind of purpose and objective, because they're not thinking about what they're going to get back necessarily.
Yeah, the
It's
mansion
just
on
the
hill.
process. Yeah.
And it's how they believe in each other
Yeah.
and how everyone else believes in them in this little, world that they exist in.
Yeah.
See on stage.
Jeremy, those jeans.
Very snug.
Ooh,
Yeah.
what did that feel like the first time you put those jeans on?
I felt like I had to stop eating. I felt, I mean, it was really helpful. The boots, the jeans, the jackets, how kind of like tight everything was, it really informed the physicality. It messed with my posture a lot. And it was really amazing. Bruce also gave us clothing that he wore when he was a young man. And so I got to wear some of Bruce's actual
You did?
clothing in the film.
Oh,
yeah.
that's the best.
It was really, really wild.
What did he let you keep any of it?
No.
No?
No, but he did. I haven't talked about this yet, and I'm like, it feels so like precious. But he gave me his St. Christopher medal
Oh my God,
that he's
stop.
had for a very long time, and he gave me to learn to play the guitar on a 1955 Gibson J200.
Oh, it's my favorite guitar.
Yeah.
I have the same guitar. 40,
Really?
40, yeah.
Oh, insane.
It's the best.
He recorded on like a 54, but he found a 55. But he recorded Nebraska on a 54. Yeah.
It's so warm. It's
It's
so
so
warm and
nice.
sound, and it's kind of a smaller guitar, so
Totally.
it feels really good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that is
I
the
have it in the
fucking
house.
coolest thing.
It's unreal. Yeah.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
As like a massive fan
Yeah.
of that man.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. It's
Ugh,
wild.
how blessed.
It's insane. It really is.
And as this generation gets older, like honoring their art and that type of artistry
Yeah.
is so important, and sharing that with the younger generation.
Yeah.
I really do. I love that about these movies.
Yeah.
And I encourage younger kids who are like into art to remember what it's like to keep things, even just to try. I love technology, but
Yeah.
the analog of it all and the,
Yeah.
that you gotta like kind of like the magic of finding something that's like, that one tape,
Yeah.
that one tape.
Yeah. How precious
doesn't
that
exi-
is. Yeah.
Oh, it's just such an important thing.
Last night I dreamed that I was a child.
I want to talk about your physicality
Okay.
in the film, wardrobe, all that stuff.
In this movie, without giving anything away, there's a lot of physicality for me. But as much as it might have seemed like a physical thing, it was actually more of the mental, because learning how to rewalk
Mm-hmm.
is actually like, there's the pain, but it's really kind of like, it's almost like your mental and physical have to come back into balance.
Yeah.
And with that was a lot of leaning on script
Sure.
supervisor who, and you're moving
Like,
around.
where am I at
You're like,
now?
where am I at in this
Totally,
process? Understanding just the technicalities of it. It's
Mm-hmm.
not very, glamorous, but just really like watching what someone in the early 90s, what that prosthetic would have looked like, or
Right.
how far along were they with the
The
technology.
advances, yeah.
And also Claire, really like
Yeah.
understanding, watching her walk, just
Yeah.
basically it's like a dance class to me,
Yeah.
you're like, okay, that's the choreography, the way she walks, and it's great.
Yeah.
It's like you wouldn't really know unless there's just like a little bit of a
Yeah.
movement, It's
Yeah.
like, because now it's actually better because she's got better technology, but
Sure.
it's kind of why we do what we do. I know that sounds wild, but to be able to learn all these new things and
Yeah.
experience the humanity of like what it is to go through something like that and what the ups and downs of all of that would be.
Yeah. I've lost a leg in a movie as well.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
What
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
movie?
The Iron Claw, which was like this wrestling movie I did a couple years ago.
And how did you similar?
I was playing a real person as well, but he's passed and I didn't spend any time with him. But yeah, it was like watching a lot of videos, but it was even earlier. This was in the 70s, and
Okay.
he was trying to hide it though. So there was like an interesting, like,
Yeah.
I had to show it, but he was also like trying to hide it from the world because he was still trying to compete.
Mhm.
There was this sort of like delicate balance, but yeah.
Claire told our director, Craig, that Mike was a leg guy.
Oh, wow.
And so part of the big thing that for me was just working with shame,
Yeah.
more even so than the physicality, is the physicality of shame.
Yeah.
What does that look like,
Yeah.
And like you say, concealing, like there is also a version of that for me when I was doing this. is
Sure.
like-
You don't want to show, there's pride and you're dealing with like a weakness that you don't want to.
Yeah, and I say it, feeling ugly, but what am I if I can't give this person that I love
Right.
everything?
Yeah.
I'm no longer going to be that person in his eyes.
Yeah. We've talked about Cameron Crowe.
Yes.
You just saw him the other night.
I did yesterday.
So yes, we should talk a little bit about
Almost
Almost Famous, that experience.
Well, it was
for
right
you.
out the bat, like
Yeah.
for me. So, I'm 20 years old. I got the part when I was 19,
Yeah.
and then I'm 20.
Was that your first?
It was like my fifth.
It was early days though.
Yeah, nothing had really even come out, kind of. You know what I mean? It was just sort of starting to happen. But yeah, I was so young, and he was such a hero of mine.
Yeah.
Like at that time, it was coming off of Jerry Maguire,
right.
but like Say Anything and
Yeah.
Singles, and
Yeah.
Cameron Crowe is like,
The music's coming out of that, man.
oh
Yeah,
my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
And his whole life, his life experience is wild. And I didn't know that about him going in
Yeah.
until we met and I read the script, and I was like, this is your life story.
Yeah.
And on top of it, my love for music, I'd already started writing music about like 18 or 19 years old, but
Yeah.
to be able to like have someone like Cameron be this wellspring of musical information was
Yeah.
like, it blew my mind. It blew my life open.
Yeah.
It was
yeah.
like, this is someone who would just he'd give me like bootleg CDs, and
It's great.
I kind of discovered, a 1972 Bob Dylan at this, at the film or whatever it was.
Yeah.
He would give me these things. I'd be like, oh my God, there's a whole world of music out there that I have not
It was like
discovered.
discovery, yeah.
It was like a master class of, creating art.
Yeah.
And
That performance, that was so lived in, and everybody was so young. Did it feel like
Billy wasn't that young. I'm just kidding. Billy Crudup was.
everybody was fairly young? Were you like, oh, this is what movies are? Or did you learn over time, oh, that was particularly special? Or did it take time for you to like feel, I guess, that again? Or do you feel that every time to an extent? Like, is there something you take away?
I think because I grew up on sets,
Yeah.
I grew up like working sets. So my parents didn't like us on set unless we were active.
Yeah.
So I'd be a runner or I'd work. I
Right.
loved working on the camera truck back when it was film.
Yeah.
Like I always had to be doing something or else I couldn't just hang around.
Yeah.
I think that because I lived on the inside of the experience of making a movie,
Mm-hmm.
I knew when it was a special experience.
Yeah.
Even for myself as a kid,
Yeah.
when there was a special community that was happening, because they're all different, you could feel it. And Almost Famous was, I mean, we were together for 6 months and we lived and breathed rock and roll and we loved every second of it. And we all loved each other so much. And when that was over, it was actually the last scene with the Lady Goodman scene out in Central Park. And I'll never forget rapping. And I just like bawled my eyes out. I was like, oh, this might never happen again. This particular, the work that I was getting to do that young was so, I knew it. You know, it was like, this is so great. And it's not gonna always be that way.
Not always that way.
No. But that was special. That really was special. Working with Cameron is a special experience.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what the outcome, everybody who's worked with him, I think, feels similar.
No, he's one of the greats. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Jeremy,
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
After The Bear wraps up, would you ever consider rom-coms?
Yeah, I'd love to. I mean, I've never done one before, but they seem like so fun.
They're harder than you think.
Yeah. I'm sure they're hard,
They're
but it
really-
does seem like fun.
It's fun.
Is that like a totally different approach? Are you like screwing on your head a different way when you go to do something like that?
I don't think the muscle is any different.
Right.
Because if it's a good one,
Yeah.
I mean, the goal is that it's as good as any great dramatic film and they're really hard to make.
Do you think it's harder or like is it
I think it's more frustrating
okay?
because,
Because the rules are different.
well,
or?
no, it's more of like you're making it because you want people to see it. You're
Right.
not making a rom-com to like be a critical, you know, I am.
Sure.
Yeah, I want it to be as critically acclaimed as anything, but I
Yeah.
think most the people you're working with
Yeah.
who are paying for it are usually like, this needs to be a hit.
Right. They want to get this out of it
Right.
too. They want to feel.
Yeah.
They show up going, we want to feel good and we want to laugh and we want to do this.
Yeah.
So like deliver.
Yeah. So
that,
like, don't
you know?
worry about the character. And
Right.
you're like, that's not how this works. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I am worried about the character because I want it to be a classic rom-com.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't want it to be a flash in the pan. I want it to be When Harry Met Sally.
When Harry Met Sally is such a
Yeah,
like
that's the-
stronghold of the genre. You know?
Yeah. I think it's maybe one of the hardest genres to get right.
Yeah.
But if you get it right,
Yeah.
it's like a game changer to your life.
Yeah.
You can't even imagine how many people you make feel good
Yeah. Yeah.
when you can do something like that. It comes with a cost
Mhm.
because once I think you get successful in rom-coms,
Mm.
everybody wants to see you in the rom-com.
Sure.
So they get real excited. They're like, great, okay, next rom-com. And you're
Yeah.
like, well, wait a minute. I have other things I want to do, you know,
Of course.
as an actor.
Yeah.
But the reward is pretty amazing.
Yeah. What did you do to get out of? Did you feel like you had to make a choice and to like
Yes.
do things differently?
Yeah,
and
you just do, yeah. Or you just have to say no.
right.
Like it's just a lot of no's.
Yeah.
After 20 years of like being in the business, you start to kind of go, you know, I like doing that.
Mm.
I like it. But you realize like there's a lot of hands that start to be like, no, you should be doing this.
Yeah.
This is the right one for you to do. And when my gut sometimes would be like, I don't know. I feel like I shouldn't do this. And they're like, no, you really, this is a great this is the good one.
Yeah.
This is that director. And this is the director you should be doing the
Right.
rom-com with. And you're like, after a while, you just realize like, oh, with something like that, I just, you know, completely have to trust my gut when to say yes, but there's a lot more no's than there are yeses.
Got you.
But for me, it's more just like, I want to do things that move me differently.
Yeah.
You know, so I always have done different things.
Mhm.
They just haven't been nearly as successful as some of my rom-coms.
Sure.
So it's more like that. It's like, no, when I'm gonna do a comedy, I gotta be working with the right people.
Right.
So we'll get together.
We'll make a
We're gonna
romantic
get the
comedy
right
happen. We'll
people.
get the right people around it. When the bear is over.
Yes.
Not before.
How long are you doing the bear?
I don't know. I mean, we're gonna go again in January. I'll go and do more.
What year is that for you?
This is our 5th season we'll be shooting. So 5. It was like 2021, I think, when we started.
My God.
Yeah, it's the best.
Isn't it the best?
Yeah, yeah.
When you have, and you love everybody.
I love everybody. I go back. I know where I'm gonna be. I mean, I've been on a TV show since I was 18 years old every year. So I've had like a consistency knowing I'm gonna be with this group of people. I'm gonna be around, in this place. And that like continuity, I feel so lucky.
I'm experiencing that right now for the first time
of
with
course.
Running Point.
Yeah.
And I am so grateful. Like I can't even believe it. Like
Yeah.
I love everybody. It's like a family.
Yeah.
That consistency.
And you know where you're gonna be. To just have that is like
especially when you're a parent, as
Yeah.
with kids, you're like, oh,
yeah.
This is.
I know this.
Yes.
At least
This.
I know this. Yeah, exactly.
This was so fun.
Kate, this was so great.
I love talking to you. I could talk to you forever.
We'll talk more.
We are going to talk more.
Off camera. Yeah, you're the greatest.
You're the
Thanks
best.
for doing this with me.
Thank you.